everybody. So today I recorded my recap of this weekend's movies with Stacey Agdern, and she is a Jewish writer and friend of the podcast. And we had such a long conversation about the Gifts of Hanukkah that I really felt like it was worth it to make it its own episode. So that's why at the beginning of the episode, I talking about all three movies, but I've decided to divide them up. So this episode is just talking about the 8 Gifts of Hanukkah. And then the next episode will be about the other two movies of the weekend, A Very Merry Bridesmaid and Our Christmas Journey. So look forward to that and look forward to hearing what you have to say about the 8 Gifts of Hanukkah. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are very excited here for another week recap of this weekend's Hallmark movies. It's our 7th week of Hallmark movies for this season. We're nearing the finish line, if you can believe it. And it's just the beginning of December, but it's true. And we're very excited to talk about 3 movies today. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stacey Agdern is here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
Yes, thank you for coming, and happy late Hanukkah. You had a great time. Yeah. And we have been so excited. If you listen to our romance reading recap, I gave my thoughts on Love and Latkes, and I really enjoyed it. And but for people that don't know, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your new book?
So my name is Stacey Agdern. I'm a very proud romance writer. Miracles and Menorahs came out in 2020, and my most recent book, Love and Latkes, is the story of a small town Latka fry-off. Our heroine, Batya Iverman, is excited because she wants to work with her idol, her culinary idol, to put together the website for the fry-off, and maybe a little more about what he does so that she can possibly become a food host herself. Of course, unbeknownst to her, she is on a bit of a collision course with her high school crush. Abe Newman is a tax accountant who desperately wants to throw caution to the wind and open a deli to fill the space that closed in the town of Rivertown 4 years before. And he is competing in the town Latka fry-off because he wants the prize money to open this deli. It's my love letter to Hanukkah. It's my love letter to Hanukkah food. It's my love letter to Jewish food. And it's the story of what happens when an unrequited crush turns quited all those years later.
Love it. Yes. And I love the names that you picked out for, particularly, how do you say it? Her name? Batya. Beautiful name. How'd you decide on that?
It's a name I'd heard years before. Actually, I have a relative named Batik, and I've always loved the sound of that name. And when I heard Batya before, I was like, that works. Because I was looking for names that are very specifically, that can kind of serve as markers for Judaism, like for people who are Jewish, names that are distinctly Jewish. And I decided that was going to be what I was going to do. And so Batya showed up in Miracles and Menorahs, and now she gets her book.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really charming little read. I thought your leads had chemistry, and it made me want to get some latkes.
Thank you. The dialogue, I tell you, like the banter between those two, easiest of the 3 books.
Yeah,
that one had the easiest banter.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about your books as we talk about 8 Gifts of Hanukkah. This was, this was our Hanukkah movie this year, and this was the first one to be a sole Hanukkah movie. So I know a lot of people were very excited about that. It stars Inbar Lavi and Jake Epstein, and it's a woman journeys to find her secret admirer during Hanukkah, which is a terrible summary. Basically, the real summary is this woman starts getting gifts each night of Hanukkah from a secret admirer, and she's trying to figure out who the secret admirer is. Yeah.
But it's also like she's 4 months out of like a long-term, potentially on the verge of marriage relationship, and she's trying to sort of figure out what her love life is and what she wants out of dating life.
That's true.
And she meets, her best friend says, okay, you need to sign up for this dating app. And she does. And as she's doing this, she heads towards Hanukkah. And of course, like, she's also on, one of the things that I loved about this movie was the fact that the focus wasn't on the holiday itself, if that makes any sense. Like, as we've like talked about before, Hanukkah isn't necessarily so much about like a holiday of religious significance as it is a holiday of cultural significance. So like, you take the focus point to this wonderful thing that's happening last night. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, well, see, I feel like everybody enjoyed this movie more than I did, and I had some problems with it. First of all, I felt like it was extremely clunky in the way that it explained Hanukkah to the audience. And that's something that your books don't do. Like, you just assume that people reading this book know about Hanukkah. Like, you don't have like paragraphs of exposition saying this is why we light the lights and this is why we, whatever. And they had this one character there at the Hanukkah dinner that her whole purpose was just to be the person they explain all the traditions to. And I just thought it was so clunky and so like terrible. Like, I don't know. I think part of the problem that makes making a Hanukkah movie difficult, and you can correct me if you disagree, is that it's not a holiday that has been secularized in the same way that Christmas has been secularized, in the sense that like, you can celebrate Christmas and not be Christian at all. Right. So there's no need to like explain this is the nativity, this is the birth of Christ, this is the tradition. Whereas I don't feel like that is as much the case with Hanukkah. And so for whatever reason, the Hallmark people feel like they need to explain every single tradition and why they're singing the song and why they're doing this and why they're doing this. And I felt like it was, I felt like it was not great.
So here's the thing, like, this is their first, like, you have like 3 different networks who show holiday movies, right?
Right.
This is the only full-fledged Hanukkah movie. And I think like the interesting thing about the 3 movies that we're talking about, right, is that like, of the 3 of them, there was only one of them that I sat the entire movie like at the edge of my seat nervous. This was not one of them.
Right.
Which, if you think about it, like, where it stands in context, where it sits in context.
Nervous in the sense of, are they going to do something wrong?
Exactly. Like, what are they going to do with the representation, the holiday? What's going to happen? Like, are they going to, is it going to, because again, like, is there going to be some unnecessarily Christmas reference? Is it going to be like, right, like, what is this movie? And the thing about this movie for me, I had story quibbles, I had character quibbles, but I didn't have Hanukkah quibbles.
So you were okay with the fact they had one person there at the party that was there, they explained everything to person?
Here's what I think. I think that, like, because that's actually what happens in a lot of ways. Like, that is very true to life.
Uh-huh.
Like, the first time I went to a friend's house for Christmas, I had no idea what that thing in the corner was, with the little people. Oh, it's a pretty diorama. What is it? Right? Like, that's a thing that happens in real life. You spend, the door is open, right? Your friends come to visit. You're going to tell them about what's going on. And I feel like having her best friend come to that first night, with the family, like, my best friends, still talk about the brisket, my mother makes, like, at various holiday occasions. So, like, having that echo that real life situation, if you're gonna have an explanation, then it's gonna be something like that, if that makes any sense. Like, it's because it is true to life and how things actually happen, I was okay with it.
Fair enough. The other thing that I didn't love about this movie is that I felt like she ignored him pretty much the whole movie. And then when they needed to get together, they get together. even to the point where when she's thinking of possible people who could be
He's
the
not
secret
even.
admirers, his name doesn't even come
Yeah.
up on the list.
Yes.
And so it made the chemistry not great. And I also thought it was weird. We'll talk more about this, but I would have rather have them do instrumental Hanukkah music instead of just some weird pop ballad, random pop ballad. I guess it was their song in high school, but it just felt strange to me to have like and something so not associated with the holiday at all be their like special song in a movie like this.
I would have loved to hear Naomi Less's 8 Nights. I would have loved to have
something
heard
like that.
like, because there are great Hanukkah songs, but at the same time, like if you're talking about the music, one of the things I've noticed about Hallmark movies in general is how they integrate Christmas carols into the theme music. And I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard that in this movie, when they did that with Dreidel or like Hanukkah Oh Hanukkah, like both of those in earlier parts, I lost it. I started to, but when we're talking about moments like that, and we'll get to my character quibbles because that's actually close to my what one of my character quibbles were. So there was a moment and I wrote this down because I knew I was going to forget the name of this movie. In Christmas in My Heart this year.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were talking about the main male character, his daughter's hair.
Yeah.
And having that whole extended conversation, which was fantastic. And it's wonderful. Zoe's hair, where Jacob, the heroine's brother, Jacob, his daughter, Zoe, seeing her on screen with her hair, with her curls, and that very particularly Ashkenazi type of curl that I had never seen before on Hallmark Channel, there was a moment where like tears.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad then.
Yes.
I mean, that's the important thing. This movie obviously was not made for me. If for the people that it was made for, if it's moving for them, I mean, it's not like it's the worst movie I've ever seen. I didn't hate it. Right. I thought it was disappointing for me.
However,
but I'm glad to hear that it was emotional and it was satisfying for you, its intended audience.
However, here's the thing though. Because for me, like you were talking about how she didn't even think of how like the heroine didn't even think of Daniel until they needed them to get together. Like for me, I absolutely agree with you there. Like when he ended the night with what he did, and I don't know if we want to spoil.
Yeah, no, we're good.
I was screaming at the television. I was like, no, not this, not there, no.
Like she frankly had a lot more time with the chef and arguably more chemistry, in my opinion.
I'm not necessarily, I liked the chemistry, but I liked the chemistry between her and Daniel. And yes, I saw the chemistry between her and the chef and her and Adam as well. But the thing is, like, what that particular final gift means is a lot. And I don't think they showed enough of a relationship for me to believe that. And I've actually felt that a couple of times with some of this year's movies, but this in particular, I was like, no,
I agree.
Like, don't do that. It's not like, I think this was one of the 2 movies where I was like, I need to see an epilogue.
Yeah, that would have been better.
This can happen in an epilogue. Yeah, like next year, come back, they're together, they're still together. Like, oh, this is where we, had our moment,
It would have been better if he had revealed who he was in the dance with the final gift and then like been like, will you go on a date with me or will you be my girlfriend or something like that? And then, an epilogue with the proposal. That would have been much better and more believable.
Yes, because there was not enough substance for that to be believable at that point. And I was just like, no.
Yeah. And so, let's talk about some of the other things. I liked let's see here. I thought Adam was kind of funny with his whole thing. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to be buying lots of glasses, that's an expensive hobby to get a girl. They didn't really do a whole lot with him, but I thought that was cute. I liked Adam and his glasses.
Yes.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
Sometimes love needs a little push. Lizzie Shane, the award-winning author of The 12 Dogs of Christmas, has a brand new small-town romance set in Pine Hollow, Vermont, where every happily ever after begins with adopting an adorable rescue dog.
First love gets a second chance into All the Dogs I've Loved Before when the town librarian, mischievous Australian Shepherd, keeps getting loose and fetching her ex, the town sheriff.
Lizzie Shane's Pine Hollow series has been called an irresistible blend of heart, humor, and a whole lot of puppy love.
And To All the Dogs I've Loved Before is available now wherever books are sold.
To learn more, visit www.lizzieshane.com.
That's lizzieshane.com. The brisket and the lighting the candles. And like I said, they have someone there to explain everything too, which I feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like I need that. I feel like I can watch and be like, oh, look, that's part of Hanukkah. They're lighting candles. I don't need to really know the Wikipedia description of why they're doing it. All I need to know is that it's a tradition for this family and yay. But whatever, I guess. And then, we have Daniel Jake Epstein, who's like the king of holiday movies this year. He's been in, I think, 4. Yeah. So
he's awesome. I love him in that. I love him in that role. Like, I think he's really, really sweet in it. Like up until that point, but yes. One of the things that I noticed was his backstory. That like parents divorced. He basically moved in with the family next door, and the grandmother of the heroine's family like basically adopted him, and it was amazing. Like I loved that fact because, well, I'll point this out. We'll mention.
I did think it was funny. I wrote in my notes, I called it Howard Cosselling. They like the play-by-play of the
so
dreidel.
Much fun. Yes, every family is so funny. Like everybody. Yeah, it was great.
That was funny.
I want to actually give a little shout out to my friend Felicia Grossman, who was the MC for a bunch of Hanukkah party events this week the past couple weeks that I've been involved in, and part of the central part of the various events was a dreidel spinning, and she did amazing commentary. She called her so watching that reminded me of her.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah, it was funny. It was good. And then she gets the first gift, the flowers at the door. And then she goes on a date with Adam, and he says, honesty goes a long way with me. So there's that with him. And he says, I've been leaning into my Jewish side.
Hey.
Yeah, I liked Adam. Adam was cute.
He was. Definitely was.
Too bad they didn't have like somebody that he could be paired up with at the end. That would have been fun.
Yes.
Sequel.
So,
yeah, there you go. Spinoff.
Exactly.
So then she goes to look at the house that Jake Epstein is renovating. And then she's playing chess. She says, what are you in doubt of? She says, my next move.
And like the chemistry in that moment where they almost kiss.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're in doubt, you just have to make one.
Yep.
So then we meet also I thought it was random that their favorite movie is Forrest Gump.
Yeah. That was like, okay, if you're gonna have like, but I think it goes to like if you're gonna have the sort of definition like of quirky close friendships, like quirky favorite movie is like like the way to go, I guess.
Yeah, that was funny. So then Nigel, the chef, brings her a picnic basket, and he's like, she's like, what are we going to do? She's like, it's a picnic basket.
Yeah. Because it was like, he was trying, like, I love how, like, very not subtly, she was trying to, like, quiz both Adam and Nigel about the gifts during the night before, like, oh, because of course, like the basket had the chocolate from the night before, and I was like,
Yeah.
I love, as a side note, like I love the whole setup with the fact that, you know, her mom's a judge, you know, her dad's an attorney, and like she's like, yeah, I'm the Jewish Nancy Drew or something like that, as they're trying to figure out like this whole like mystery.
Yeah. And he gives her a watch. She gets a watch. It's one of the gifts. And she says there's 5 more gifts to see if we are beshert.
Sure. Yeah.
Beshert meant to be. And I actually knew that because, because, you know, I'm a huge Nanny fan. And I think the Nanny actually does Jewish representation better than anything I've ever seen, at least. The way it's just worked into conversation just very naturally. And she is just who she is. And one episode of The Nanny, they almost break up, Mr. Sheffield and Fran. And then they make up at the end, and she says, we're beshert. That means meant to be. Because that's what we are. We're naked without each other. Just like my finger. That's what she says. I love it. It's one of my favorites.
And like, and the story behind that too, like how she fought for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like how she fought because they were like, how about you not? And she's like, I'm going to. And it was just like, yeah, it was just joy.
True. Yeah. So I kind of felt bad for Nigel. Like he's so nice, and he just kind of gets left behind and forgotten.
Shafted at the end. And it's like you could see his reaction, like, no. But he's a really good guy about it, which I very much appreciate. Like you don't see him like snarling or like yelling about it, like, which I think is an important thing.
He's not like a bad man of business or anything like that.
Yeah.
So at one point they have a Hanukkah hunt. Is that a thing?
I had never heard of it before. JCCs do like wild stuff, like in terms of things. I would expect something similar. I would expect something to happen like around, you know, Passover, but not really, because it's finding things is more associated with Passover than with Hanukkah. But in like a sort of a finding the Afikomen sort of manner in the Seder, but not like, if that makes any sense. Like it's not something like that we would do. But on the other hand, the committee is very real.
The committee is legit.
Like the committee is totally legit. Like I am the daughter of a former temple president, so I have heard stories for years. And yes, I think, and I don't necessarily, I have not seen a well, like that kind of a like committee done really, really well since the Intimacy Experiment. Rosie Danan, the main male character in that book, is a rabbi, and he has to deal with the temple board and organization a lot. And her depiction in this book of all of that is fantastic.
Yeah. That sounds good. I'll have to check that out. So I did like the scene where she's giving him the eye exam. That was a pretty swoon-worthy eye exam. And then I also liked the scene where they're sitting on Bobet's bench and she like puts her head on his shoulder. That was very sweet.
The dancing was adorable too, like how awful she is at dancing, and that moment like where he comes over and like he's gonna say something and then he chickens out, and it's like, oh
yeah. And she gets a menorah on day 5, a music box on day 6. And then they go to the Hanukkah lighting, and he does definitely like keep staring. He does the long lingering stare, which I'm
big time. Big time, especially like after he's told his best friend that in fact he is the guy. Yeah. You know, after he's much more open about it once he's admitted to it, which I feel comfortable with, because the audience is now in on it. And so like we can see these things a bit clearer.
Yeah, that's true. You did get more of the chemistry there. But then she gets asked by her ex that it broke her heart. He tries to win her back. And then Daniel takes the call.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thinks, oh, I'm not going to have a
Yeah.
chance. And then that's when she has the thing where, she doesn't even list him as a possible. She does not see it at all.
Nope.
No.
think-
And because there's the bit on the glasses.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, on these special antique glasses
that were basically her grandmother's glasses.
Yeah. So she doesn't guess Daniel, and
he freaks out, basically.
Yeah. I didn't think you saw me that way. But then she breaks up with Nigel.
Mm-hmm.
And tells Paul she's in love with someone else. That's, of course, Daniel.
Yeah.
And my thought was, how did she suddenly realize she was in love with Daniel? Like, I guess it was one of those aha moments. But
so I would have liked to have seen the moment, if that makes any sense. It's a hard thing to describe because probably what happened is he's upset. Number one, he's possibly leaving. Number two, she could possibly lose him. And number three, he's told her that it's been him this whole time who's seen to the heart of her.
Yeah.
So as she's probably walking home, as she's probably organizing herself for everything, she's, it's going through her head, it's going through her heart. And she's like, oh my God. And the thing is you see some of it in the scene where she's getting ready, but not very much of it. And I think I would have wanted her more oh my God, getting up and looking at the things and then getting, it's much, it's a much more internal thing for her, but I think I would have liked to have seen more of an external part of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they really needed that moment, in Clueless, when she's when she's walking around and she's like, I'm totally in love with him.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't know how to act around him after that. And you kind of needed that moment for the ending to work. And I don't know, like I said, I just felt like the music choice was weird. What? I like that song, the Collide song. It's a nice song, but it just felt so not holiday at all. And obviously you're not going to use a Christmas song. I get that, but
there are a ton of songs you could use. The Maccabees, Naomi Less, 613, oh God, Joe Buchanan has a bunch of really cool songs. His song Shine is gorgeous. Rick Wrecked, You Shall Love by Rick Wrecked. There are tons. I could give you 20 million songs.
And I felt that. I was like, there's no way. I was like, I don't know the song they should have picked, but not this.
And there's one that just came out that would have been perfect. I cannot remember the name of it, but there are some beautiful songs God Elbaz. There's so many gorgeous voices. Nefesh Mountain. There's again, I could be here all day listing sources of music that could have been there instead.
And people were really hard on the Double Holiday movie, but in my opinion, I think that was a stronger film than this, because I think it was more natural for her to be explaining her religion to Chris Polo's character, and he's trying to learn it and trying to and showing each of the days with her and her family. And that to me was much more natural than here's this random person at the party I'm going to tell everything to. And then I just felt to me, it makes total sense that her office is going to ask her to help plan this party. And that's going to be somewhat awkward. There's no way that an office environment like that is going to have a Hanukkah party. That's just not, they're going to have a holiday party probably at best. And maybe that's not right, but it's just a reality. And so I felt like them planning that party in that movie, it made sense to me. So I didn't see it as Christmas co-opting Hanukkah. I saw it as a natural thing that would happen to people that are planning the holiday party in their office. And then every time that they could bring in Hanukkah, they did.
No, absolutely. It was honestly, I loved that movie for what it was for a lot of different reasons. And I think without that movie, this never would have happened.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was a necessary building block, and I will watch it every time it's on, because that, holiday date double holiday both needed to happen to make a Gifts of Hanukkah possible.
Yeah, and I just felt like it was an unfair
And,
criticism. People were saying Christmaka or whatever, and I was like, I don't think that's really fair. I don't think that in that movie they ever like forced the Jewish characters to celebrate Christmas. They always celebrated Hanukkah. It's just that she was also in charge of planning this holiday party, which is something that would actually happen in real life.
It's so hard because the thing is, like, I think those two movies that year were both basically making up for Hitch for the Holidays, which is a movie that should be thrown out the window and never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Like 2019 was that watershed year where Hallmark said, okay, we're going to do this. And instead of like looking at the movies for what people think they should have been, you should look at them as what they were, which were building blocks, stepping stones, bringing Hallmark audiences who don't know what a locket is. I mean, like, one of the things that I hear now a lot is, thank you so much for teaching me about Hanukkah, which is not my intention about my books, but like, that's what happens, right? Like you have, and so the movies that were released in 2019 that Hallmark did had a really good way, both of them, both Double Holiday and Holiday Day, had a really great way of showing the Jewish relationship to Christmas and also explaining Hanukkah 101 to an audience that wouldn't know what it was. And so 3 years later, right? Love Lights Hanukkah was last year.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
So last year it was that bridge, right? Like it was a quasi sort of interfaith, but not really sort of movie. But like, and then you have this. And I think this is, I think we're here. I think they'll do better. They'll make like Hanukkah movies from now on. And I cannot wait to see what they do.
Yeah. Like, do you think that they can, maybe now they feel like their viewership sort of knows enough that they can just have them experiencing these things without the need to be like, this is why we roll the dreidel and this is why do you think that will ever go away? Or
I mean, I'd like to see it go away, but do I think it's, I don't know. You don't know what your audience is, right? Like if your audience was solely Jews, right? Sure. But the thing is, you think about like Hallmark Channel, right? And right. What, and who watches Hallmark Channel? The audience is much more progressive, but still not majority Jewish.
Right.
And so like, I personally think I would love to see a movie that doesn't require the explanations, like, but at the same time, nobody ever thought that Hallmark would actually make a Hanukkah movie, a full-fledged, no holds barred, like this is Hanukkah movie.
Yeah. And I, like I said, I do think it is more challenging just because I think that Hanukkah is still more of a religious holiday than Christmas currently is.
And if you think about, like, it's interesting because when you talk about holidays with like religious impact in the context of the faith, Christmas is always going to have a heavier religious impact. Even if you divorce it from that, it is still going to have that heavy religious impact within the faith, right? Like
within the faith. Yeah, I think that's true.
And even outside, right? It's still like the most, right? It's like one of the two biggest religious holidays in Christianity in general, right?
Yeah, but it has been secularized to the point that you can completely celebrate it without any mention of any of the religious connotations, which I don't know if that's the case with Hanukkah. Do you disagree?
I mean, personally, like I'm always going to see it, like, but that's just me, right? Like Christmas is still going to be Christmas, no matter like how you dress it up or how you take away like
Because I know a bunch of atheists that celebrate Christmas every year.
I mean, I mean, atheists, like you don't have to believe in God to celebrate religious holidays, but like, like that's kind of, but like at the same time, like it's always going to have those connotations, if that makes sense. Like, whereas in terms of religious impact, in terms of the faith, Hanukkah's like tiny. Like the big ones are Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And like I've seen people write them well. But
yeah, I mean, because it's more, I mean, you've told me this before, that it's more kind of placement that has elevated it because it's the same time as Christmas, but it's not as important holiday as like Purim or Passover. Or
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Exactly. Like, it's placement, and also has become an American Jewish holiday of identity. Like a cultural holiday of identity, of like saying I'm Jewish in the dark, like raising your menorah in the window and saying I'm Jewish, like it's, and celebrating. But I think like, but at the same time, like if you ask random people on the street what they know about Jews, 90% of them will say Hanukkah.
Yeah, I think that's true. And yeah, I think that is true. It is very, what do you call it? Endemic holiday? Is that what's the word you were using? That it's a holiday of identity?
Yeah, holiday. Yep.
Holiday of identity.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I did like the lead in this. I thought she was good. And I like Jake Epstein. I didn't think they had like great chemistry, but it was like serviceable. Yeah. I also, so when he does propose at the end, I wish he had got down on one knee. He's there with the box. Yeah. That would have been romantic.
Yes.
But and then also
still like, no, I was like,
yeah, I mean, I wish they hadn't done it at all, but if you're going to do it, get down on one knee. And then also they were like completely making out in public, which was awkward. I was like, wow,
that's a thing.
That was like some serious kissing for Hallmark.
I know. I was like, oh my God. But also like, it's a thing, like kind of amazing.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm like, wow, they just went for it. There you go. And then that's the end of the movie. So yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe I feel like maybe I was a little too hard on this movie, but I just felt like they didn't spend enough time together. She kind of I didn't like that she didn't even see him as a possibility in her list of who could be the admirer. And then I just thought the explanation to the friend at the dinner was very clunky for me. So I mean, I'd give this one, I guess I will give it a 3 because I do think it seems everybody else seems to have enjoyed it, and it seems to be important for the people that it was made for. So I always give that credit. I'll give it a 3. What would you give it out of 5?
I would say 4.5.
Okay, good.
Because
great.
my story quibbles knock it down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
That proposal was no.
Yeah,
that was a big
mistake.
I was not ready for that. Movie needs an epilogue.
Spin off for Adam.
Yes.
And poor Chef. That's good. Nigel.
And put Jacob and Keisha together. Like that's that's the other thing. That's I think what they were hinting at, that she was learning the holiday because Keisha and Jacob were having a thing. And I was like, okay. I was like, if that's what this is, I am totally for that.
Yeah.
Give them another sequel. Give them a sequel. Like, give them Passover.
That would actually be nice if they just kept the same cast, because then you wouldn't need to re-explain things because people would have just had it explained in the previous movie. Yeah. So that would kind of save them and just free them up to just telling whatever stories they want to tell. Because like in your book, you have like the latkes competition. You don't have like tons of explanation about what latkes are and why we make them and, whatever. You just do it and it's fun. So, I mean, just like the same with any culture, if you were having a book like South Beach Love, which is set in South Beach, Miami, and there's all these Cuban traditions and they're just there and you talk about them, but you don't need, you're like kindergartner, sit me down. I'm going to explain to you what all of this means culturally to people. So I don't know. I think that could be actually an interesting way to go and take that step into just telling full stories.
I am excited to see where they go next.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think they now can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of these 3 movies. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And make sure you check out Stacey's books. They're super fun. And let us know what you think. And Stacey, how can people follow you and your content and everything?
I am findable on Twitter as NYStacey. Instagram is Agdern. StaceyAgdern.com is the website. Stacey Agdern is my author Facebook page. And my books are published by Tulip Publishing and available wherever books are sold.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please take a look over there. And also make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please take a second and leave your ratings and reviews, 5-star reviews. We sure appreciate them so much. Helps people to find the podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the patron group where we're having our patron watch along next week with director David Weaver. And we're going to watch Christmas Town with Candace Cameron Bray. So that's going to be super fun. He's going to have a lot of behind the scenes details. So any tier level can participate. So please take a look and check out the patron group. And then we also have the merch store, which has tons of fun designs, holiday and otherwise. So if you are looking, the last day to order for Christmas is Thursday. So when this airs on Wednesday, the last day to order for Christmas is Thursday. So get in your Hallmarkies postables, Hardee's, all of that inspired items, plus just for the movie fan in your life. We have tons of fun designs. Please take a look at the merch store. We appreciate it so, so much. And thanks so much, Stacey. I really appreciate you talking with me about these movies. I look forward to it every year.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy every year. And I really, really love coming on and chatting with you. So. And I want to congratulate you.
Oh, thank you.
on your very recent awards and promotions.
Yes, thank you. I got made a member of the Hollywood Critics Association. And so that was very exciting, very fun. So yeah, thank you so much. And we just wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy late Hanukkah, and hope y'all are having a wonderful season. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.